like I keep saying India has, mouth-watering opportunities, but eye-watering challenges, right? Like, but these eye-watering challenges create the mouth-watering opportunities. If I could change the name of Titan Capital, I would make it Slow Capital. Right?
Slow capital.
Because I feel that this is the problem where we are trying to move too fast all the time. We don't need to. It is kind of sad, right? Like that the definition of success in the startup ecosystem has become a mythical creature which nobody has ever seen before, right? And a terminology defined by someone in the West, someone in Silicon Valley, in a currency that is not ours, right? Of an amount that has no relevance in our ecosystem, right? So why unicorn? Nobody knows. Why 1 billion? Nobody knows. Why 8,300 crores? Nobody knows. And why a valuation number and not a revenue number? Nobody knows. And by the way, what about profits? Like, do those matter?
No one knows.
Right? Nobody ever wants to talk about.
I don't know if you will appreciate me for saying this, or you will think that which we bol rahi hai. But I would say that agar is desh mein, in India, if you have to say someone who has been the most phenomenal, most successful investor in some of the most now scaling companies, then it is you.
Firstly, thank you for having me. You always start with a curveball, but I feel that at the end of the day, the work is being done by the founders, right? मेरी कंपनी में आके कोई इन्वेस्टर बोले कि सारा काम मैंने किया था, इसमें कुछ किया नहीं, I would not feel good about it also. So I think the work is done by the founders. As investors, we just support them, right? In any way we can. But so nice to be here. So thanks for having me.
Yes, and thank you for coming. And I wanted to start with this because somewhere Kunal Bahl, we all know, we all follow, we've all, e-commerce in India was Snapdeal, and he's the founder, he's the builder of that. But, over the course of the years, what I respect about you is that so many entrepreneurs in this country, you genuinely help. Yesterday, Nitin Kamath was there and he said that he's invested in 140. The Rain Matters has invested in 140 startups. I want to ask, what's your number?
कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. It doesn't matter. Like it's like GMV or number of users or whatever. It's a vanity number. At the end of the day, quality matters. Were you as an investor able to actually create an impact for the founder?
Yeah.
Save them from any falling into any potholes, and also help them whenever they needed help, right? Like I think those things matter. If we have invested in 300 companies, honestly, it doesn't make a difference.
So it is 300.
But it doesn't make a difference, I'm saying, because if we had invested in 30 and we had been very helpful to the 30, I would be equally thrilled.
Yeah.
But given we've invested in a decent number of companies, but over 13 years, right? So over 13 years, it's okay, like 15, 20 companies a year. We've been just consistently investing year after year after year. And more importantly, at least, one thing I've realized is that it takes a long time to build a company.
Yeah.
And as a result, why founders have, like to work with us, I think, is because we have that operator mindset. We are running our companies, right? We have seen companies from zero to IPO. Our company, Unicommerce, went public last month. So I think founders appreciate that about us being their partners. More importantly, they appreciate the fact that we don't have a trading mentality that आज invest किया 3 साल में बेच दिया. Right? We stay in companies for 10 years, 15 years if needed. There are many companies like Ola, we invested in 2011, we exited after 12 years. Right? Urban Company, we invested in 2014 or 15, we invested after 9 years, exited after 9 years. Because in India, it takes that long to build a company. It takes that long to scale a company, get past the many inflection points, downward and upward inflection points. And you need staying power as an investor, both mentally and financially. I think that's why founders like taking capital from Titan Capital because we exhibit some of those attributes. We have a lot to improve also. We have a lot to learn also. We make a lot of mistakes still. But for the most part, the principles resonate with the founders.
I also have to say that I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs whom you've invested in. And I think the proof of the pudding is, जब पैसा मिल जाता है, उसके बाद what do entrepreneurs have to say about you? And they all say that he feels like a friend. They feel like a friend and they backed you. That we've seen the venture capital ecosystem in our country, and having that thing when no one is watching you about an investor is a big thing.
Yeah, I think character is visible depends on, character is defined by what you do is when no one else is looking.
Yeah.
Right? Is what you say about the founders when nobody is looking, or when the founder's not looking, when the founder's not in the room. How you act behind the scenes. And the fact that you do what you have to do to help the company, even without the founder asking you for that help. Right? Like where behind the scenes, your mind is always churning. You're always thinking, how can I help them? How can I help them? How can I help them?
Yeah.
And you're doing whatever it takes to help them without them even knowing you are helping them in the background, and somewhere it will manifest itself down the road.
Kunal, I want to ask you about this. We'll come to the unicorn part a bit later. But one thing is that they are venture capitalists and very successful venture capitalists who've been operating in India for the last 15 years. So I want you to comment on that. And now we are seeing in the last few years, मुझे लगता है जितने entrepreneurs भी उससे ज़्यादा investors हैं. Like on LinkedIn, you see everyone is an angel investor. So everyone has become angel investor, but still entrepreneurs have problem getting money. So they're both spectrums there, and you are in between. So tell us, what do you think? Look at that.
See, I was looking at some data that last year of all the capital that went into the Indian startup ecosystem, only 15% was domestic capital.
Yeah.
85% was still foreign capital. For all the domestic venture capitalists, all the angel investors, micro VC, seed funds, etc., they all cumulatively only accounted for 15% of capital. So I feel that's great if everyone wants to put their money back in the ecosystem. We actually need not 2x, 5x, 10x, we need 100x or more of that. I'd love for all of us to be investing in the startup ecosystem, right? Whatever our means allow, whether it is making a 5 lakh rupee investment in a startup we find promising, or making 10 or making 100, right? Whatever you are able to do financially and intellectually, you must do, because I feel that, we are just in this golden era of India, right? Like many people don't realize from AD 1 to AD 1700, India was a top 2 GDP in the world. Right? After 350 years of invasions and pillaging and famines, we are going to be the top 3 GDP in the world. So this time it is different. We've often heard that India's time has come and then it's 1 step forward and 2 steps back. But finally, India's time has actually come this time. This time is different. Our GDP is amongst the top, will be soon in top 3 in the world. We have digital rails that have never existed in any other country. We have, youth, 28-year-old median age, which isn't there anywhere else in the country right now, in the world right now. That it is different. And what we don't want is that dearth of capital holds us back. Because all said and done, we don't have that kind of capital as a country yet to fund our startup ecosystem. So if all of us in some ways are crowdfunding the startup ecosystem, what's wrong with that? I think that's fantastic. And look, there is a space for every kind of investor. Investors that have been around for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years are bringing global pension fund money and, sovereign fund money. Great. Let's welcome them with open arms and open doors. We need all the money that we can. The government has this fund of funds of 15,000 crores, SIDBI fund of funds. Last 10 years, they've invested 10,000 crores in Indian funds. I feel we need 10,000 crores to be invested every year, not over 10 years.
Yeah, so today Amitabh Khan was saying 25,000 crore deep tech fund we should have now.
Yeah. Because that is what then I feel the limiting factor in India is right now capital. It is not bright minds with hustle, with the willingness to sacrifice, salaries. We don't have dearth of problem. Like I keep saying, India has, mouth-watering opportunities, but eye-watering challenges, right? But these eye-watering challenges create the mouth-watering opportunities.
This is like phenomenal. This deserves a clap because let's think about our own mouth-watering opportunities and eye-watering challenges. I see more eye-watering challenges.
It's an exciting time to be in India.
Yeah, here in the country. But do you see, the traditional venture capital model changing, evolving? And where would you say Titan Capital fits?
Yeah, I feel that over a period of time, founders want to take capital from those who have built companies.
Yeah.
Because they find those people a lot more empathetic. They find them more realistic, not utopian in their mindset that it's a straight line journey to success. It's a zigzag, up and down. Like, you want people who have gone through their own trials and tribulations, who've gone through their own struggles, and have emerged out of them, right, every time. Because every founder will go through those struggles. Any founder who says, oh, I have never had any troubles in life, in my business, is lying. They're just plain lying. It doesn't happen. Everyone goes through a lot of pain, acute amount of pain oftentimes, and you want people by your side who've gone through the same pain and will be empathetic to your pain also, and will help you, at the very least, give you courage, but hopefully give you a lot of wisdom of how to come out of that abyss. Yeah. If you found yourself in one, which you will find yourself in many times over in your journey. And I feel that the bar has hence risen over a period of time as to what a founder feels is a good venture capital partner. Because they need to be people who are in it for the long run, not for 3-4 years and then flip the shares and get their cash out, but at least 10-15 years. They need people who have seen a lot of challenges, a lot of different trends and waves and buzzwords come and go, and it has not deterred them. You need people who have tremendous amount of experience. There was a time 10 years ago, we didn't have that cohort of operators who had capital to invest.
Yeah.
So we only had mostly seasoned investors who had returned from the US or wherever. Things have changed. We have tens of thousands of startups, senior executives who've seen a really complicated journey in those startups or multiple startups. They have become investors now. They are the ones that the best founders want to partner with operator investors. And that I have seen is absolutely the undeniable truth of the ecosystem right now.
Yeah, and people like you. Like that. To me, I think Titan Capital, what I was also alluding to, is changing the one way of investing that we saw, venture capital investing. What will you call yourself? A VC fund?
I don't know what. I think we're just, we are partners, right? I think capital is actually just it's the bond that formalizes a relationship, right? I see the capital part to be just that.
Yeah.
Why? Because we have finite amount of time, right? We would love to help thousands of startups if we could. Unfortunately, घंटे तो हमारे पास भी उतने ही है. And so, how we are able to allocate our time, network, wisdom, mistakes, learnings, etc., is by saying, okay, here is the bond that is created with these founders through the capital we've invested. Now we'll allocate the time we have to them, right? So, and because we are investing our own capital, we don't have any, on the seed side, we don't have any external LPs or investors. It's just me and Rohit. We are investing our capital last 13 years. Our ability to be long-term oriented is very different usually from most VCs.
Yeah.
So, because I've seen, Shradha, that in India, every business takes longer than anyone thinks it will take to build, right? You and I have been at it for, more years than we'd like to say. Both of us have been running our businesses maybe north of 15 years, right? So that's a long time, right? There may be some 15-year-olds in the audience. But I think if you have staying power to stay on for that period of time, you also, when you become an investor, you also appreciate the fact that companies, in order to get built, will take that long. One of the things we have noticed in the companies we have invested in, that 80% of the value creation happens in the final 20% of the time. Right? So let's say terminal point being an IPO or an exit, M&A, etc. The 80% of the value creation happens in the final 20% of the time. And most of the investors will exit before that final 20% of the time. because they're like, we don't know where this is going, it's taking too long, etc. But our ability to stay on for that long is there because one, we are investing our own capital. Secondly, as operators ourselves, we know that it takes that long, right? And unless you are willing to get into a partnership with a founder to stay for 15, 20 years, you will likely get frustrated along the way, and you will frustrate the founder also. And that's why you see these, some of these relationships tear apart over time.
Yeah, and that's why to me, I feel in India, Titan Capital is the new framework of investing.
It's so nice of you to say.
So operator-based, because we don't have such scaled, I don't know if there's a...
See, when we are investing in a company, Shradha, we are constantly thinking, people think we are thinking about, is this a good company to invest or not? Of course, we are thinking that. But we are mostly also thinking, let's say the investment is done, right? We have signed, money is wired, founder has come to meet us. We meet founders for the first 6 months of an investment every month. Rohit and I will meet them. They've come for the first meeting after the investment. It should not be that we have nothing to contribute.
Yeah.
Right? Like the founder, like, ye kisse paise le liye maine? Right? They know nothing. They know nothing about my space. They don't know how to build a business. They don't know how to help me grow my business, etc. So we also want to be true to ourselves that we are backing companies and founders where we can actually meaningfully contribute across the arc of company building. Because the arc of company building is very complicated. It's सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि आपने product बना लिया और फिर बेच लिया. There's so many complexities. How do you build the organization? How do you solve conflicts in the organization? How do you go sell? How do you raise money? There are just so many things at play that we should feel that we will be able to contribute also. And our philosophy at Titan is that we're very, very selective. We have very high bar. And we only invest in things that we truly understand. कोई buzzword है, कोई नया wave आया, अगर हमें समझ नहीं आया, we will not do it. If we understand, we will do it. Because our philosophy is that, we don't need to be in all the good companies. We just need to make sure the ones we have invested in are good. And that's more than enough to have a good outcome as a financial services firm.
Yeah. Yesterday, we had a very good conversation with Ronnie Screwvala, and he was saying that all of us should have our own benchmark of success and our own framework of what we want to achieve, what we want to do, because scale is such a word, and all of us want to scale, be it valuation scale, funding scale. But he said scaling for whatever India is shining is tough, is hard.
Yeah.
And it is hard for businesses and entrepreneurs. I want you to, because you've also been persistent, you've been at it and so many years, and you've seen so many businesses. What would you say that as mental models, all of us think, because all of us at least are under the pressure that we have to scale fast, raise money, certain yardsticks of success.
If I could change the name of Titan Capital, I would make it Slow Capital.
Right? Slow Capital.
Because I feel that this is the problem where we are trying to move too fast all the time. We don't need to. Like, we need to have a certain pace in what we do. We can't be like sluggish and like just not moving. But it is this desire for extraordinary speed that tends to cause companies to fall on their faces oftentimes. You have to be thoughtful about where you want to play, how you want to play, and then move fast in that lane. But otherwise, I generally many times see founders, and I have been guilty of doing the same in the past, of trying to get things too fast, right? Try and move too fast before our time. And I think you have to have that judgment in your mind as to when is the time to accelerate, and when is the time to pull back and be thoughtful. I do feel that over time that maturity has started settling into the ecosystem. Founders are realizing that, first achieve PMF before you scale, right? So for instance, our business that went public last month, Unicorns, we built that business with zero primary capital. Zero. We never raised capital. Even in the IPO, we didn't raise any capital. After we acquired that business, which was just a little product with almost no revenue in 2015, through the entire building out of that journey where we are now doing, 800 million, 900 million orders a year that we are processing, we didn't raise a single rupee of money. Wow. So because we were never But trust me, I have the other experience also, where we raise a lot of money for our e-commerce business. For Snapdeal, we raised a lot of money, spent a lot of money. Obviously, it was at a different time in the ecosystem when you had to spend a lot of money to build the rails for people to buy and people to sell online. But recognizing that the market has changed, market's got a lot deeper. You can now build a business very capital efficiently if you so choose to do. But if you give in to the temptations of wo kya kar raha hai, ye kya kar raha hai, that person's raised this much money, this investor's telling me to raise money, then you will end up making mistakes. You will end up getting diluted, and in the end, you may realize that you've built maybe temporary valuation, but not really built value.
Yeah. So Kunal, we are here for something very exciting.
Yes.
And something I feel very proud, very paradigm shifting in our country. And hopefully each one of you, each one in this room is going to be the champion. We are going to make everyone here the ambassador of what you are going to announce and say.
We are going to
do this.
It's a joint.
Yes. So, okay, now over to you. Please tell.
Yeah, so the thought of this actually started in TechSparks, Delhi.
Yes.
Which was, I forget the month exactly.
The homogeneous pain time when you had
homogeneous, yeah. Exactly. You remember everything. So, we were just discussing that this obsession with unicorns, right? Everyone knows what a unicorn here is. Raise your hand if you know what a unicorn is. Okay.
Yes.
There are few who don't, is it? But it is kind of sad, right? Like that the definition of success in the startup ecosystem has become a mythical creature which nobody has ever seen before, right? And a terminology defined by someone in the West, someone in Silicon Valley, in a currency that is not ours, right? Of an amount that has no relevance in our ecosystem, right? So why unicorn? Nobody knows. Why 1 billion? Nobody knows. Why 8,300 crores? Nobody knows. And why a valuation number and not a revenue number? Nobody knows. And by the way, what about profits? Like, do those matter?
No one knows.
Right? Nobody ever wants to talk about. So at least what's been going through my mind, because as an operator for many years, where I built one business which was a capital consuming business, one business which was a capital efficient business, and invested in many businesses which are across the spectrum. It is important that we have now reached a stage where India is strong. We have strong foundations. We are not a fragile country, fragile startup ecosystem. And our companies are in the startup ecosystem are also not fragile. It's important to celebrate what is truly Indian and celebrate our successes in our way with our own benchmarks. And those benchmarks shouldn't be foreign, shouldn't be imported, shouldn't be in currencies of other countries. They should be in our currency. It makes sense, right? Like, or it doesn't? Yes? It's not loud enough. Yes? Yeah, so why shouldn't we have our own terminology? Why shouldn't we have our own label? I think labels are important. Labels give those who don't know much about this world a certain aspiration to shoot for. That is kind of what the unicorn tag used to do for the startup ecosystem. But it's time we have a new tag. It's time we have a new name to define what success looks like, but one which is rooted in our country, our country's facts, our country's reality, our startup ecosystem's reality. And so the name we coined is an Indicorn. And the Indicorn is actually a company which is 100 crores of revenue.
Yeah.
Musicals. So I'll just finish before the music starts. The 100 crores of revenue started in the last 15 years and is profitable, right? Many founders, when they start up and they're doing 10 lakhs of revenue, 20 lakhs of revenue, 1 crore of revenue, imagining what a $1 billion valuation company will take for them to build is unreal. You just don't know what will it take. What is the framework of creating a $1 billion valuation company? But a framework of creating a 100 crore revenue company which is profit making, is still fathomable. It's something which is achievable. And if you achieve that, I can assure you, you built a lasting, enduring company. A company that is no longer fragile, a company that is not based on the whims and fancies of third-party people, investors coming in telling you, I think your business is good, or I think your business is bad, or I think your business is worth that much. Your business will be very valuable if you get to that point. Your progress will be almost irreversible, and you'll only go from strength to strength from there. So it's time we start celebrating Indicorns rather than and abandon this concept of unicorns. Sure, some people may still use it, which is fine, but it's important that we all become ambassadors, we all become aspirants of creating Indicorns for our country.
Wow. This is phenomenal. And I request each one of you, I can see that people, all of you are taking photos, but each one of you have to be the ambassador and talk about Indicorns. So we will not use the Videshi Jao, this is the Swadeshi movement, where we have to say why the pressure, the mental pressure of unicorn. You know, there is like an inferiority complex ki sabhi unicorn hai, sunicorn hai. Like whatever con, but now we are all going to aspire to be Indicorn.
We have released the 2024 Indicorns list. Like there is always this unicorns list that is being published. वो छोटा 118 logo जो डाल देते हैं वो. And there are 187 Indicorns in India as of FY23 ROC financial.
Wow.
Right? I mean, you will be stunned with what I'm going to tell you next. The cumulative revenue of these 187 Indicorns is over 1 lakh crores. Cumulative revenue, annual revenue.
Wow.
Right? The cumulative profits of these 187 Indicorns in FY23 was 8,600 crores of profits. Right? Wow. They generated employment of over 92,000. Right, so this is amazing. Like they are actually creating serious impact in the country, and
not being celebrated and not being.
In many cases, yeah. When I went through this, I didn't even know the names of the companies.
Yeah,
which is so sad.
Yes,
right. These are the companies that have to be celebrated. So you should go to Indicorns.club. We have partnered with Traction as our data partner and YourStory as our launch partner, and it is no one's property; it's everyone's. Right, Indicorns is a terminology we didn't file any trademark on. It is for everyone to use. We don't want to monetize it. We don't want to commercialize it. It is everyone's.
This is so cool. This is so cool, and this is new. And this is here launched at TechSparks. Thank you so much, Kunal.
It started with a dream.
Yes, and you made it happen. So this is phenomenal, and Indicorns it is. And with that, let's get to the questions, and quickly.
I'm 20-year-old founder from Blink. So we are building electric utility bikes for last mile deliveries on the local business and street vendors, mainly for the people who can't afford the vehicles. So we have already developed the prototypes and they are production ready. And my question is this a good time to raise funds and start the production, or should I take loans and go for the productions? And what are your advice for the young entrepreneurs?
Firstly, what you're building is obviously very, very much needed. So great that you're taking that stance and building a hardware business, which is not easy.
Thank you.
On. And I think your question was, should you raise debt like a loan or raise equity? That's the question, right?
At this stage, we have developed the prototype and they are production ready.
At this point in time, most likely very few financial institutions will give a loan because they want some revenue, some profits and some amount of equity that you've raised. But fortunately, like we were discussing earlier, there's so many micro VCs, so many seed funds, so many angel investors in the country now that you must approach them to raise some equity capital, build some prototypes, make some sales, generate some revenue, and then go to maybe a bank or an NBFC. And by the way, I think a lot of people will ask, how do I get in touch? How do I get in touch? Very simple. My email is kb@titancapital.vc. So aap pehle le lo so that, tomorrow there's, you don't have to chase me out of the hall. So just KB, my initials, at titancapital.vc. Super simple. So if anyone wants to reach out, understand about their fit with vis-a-vis raising capital from Titan, just email me. So you don't feel stressed about chasing me.
My name is Raunak Singhvi. I am trying to start a company for the first time and hence I need guidance more than I need capital. So my question is, should I focus on raising money entirely from incubators whose value proposition is to work closely with founders?
But pehle business kya hai?
I'm trying to start a company which helps AI agents authenticate to websites that do not provide OAuth-based authentication.
Yeah, very interesting. So I would say that, look, have you built a prototype already?
No, we are currently developing the prototype.
Look, you have to first be convinced that what you've built is good, is needed by other people. So I would encourage you, before you spend time thinking about raising capital, ideally, if you can, with the resources you have, maybe with the team that you have, the initial team that you have, try and build a prototype yourself, try and have 2-3 paying customers or even, design partners to begin with, and then go out to raise capital. Oftentimes, founders will spend more time raising capital prematurely before the prototype is or MVP is even ready, versus that time actually being spent in building the MVP. That is time better spent in the early days, right? So that's what I would encourage you to do.
In terms of if you are going very thoroughly, there could be other investors in the pool who might be putting pressure that you are taking time, we want to move fast, you want to exit fast. So how do you balance that? And in some markets where...
As an entrepreneur, how do you balance some investment?
No. So from a Titan Capital point of view, you say we have a 15-year leeway, we'll go slow.
Yeah.
But you have other investors also in the companies you have invested and they want to move fast, faster than you. So how do you...
They want the business to move faster?
Moving the business to move faster, exit faster and all that.
Generally, we...
Oh, no, just there a second.
Okay.
And there are certain markets where people say, go and put money and capture as many customers as possible because you will get a big enough market share in the beginning. These people will stay with you. Like what Uber was doing in Singapore and other markets. So what is your thought on that? Second part to the question very quickly, that in a 15-year time frame, you would see management moving. So, and there's this principle, or some people feel that a founder is not necessarily a good person to scale the company. So what are your thoughts on that, that a second person is needed to scale the company, or the founder is the best person who knows the product and he should scale the company over a 15-year period?
Founder hai, professional hai to human being hi na. Matlab, at the end of the day, what you need is someone who has the courage, the gumption, the intelligence, the hustle, the work ethic, the culture building capabilities. Could be a founder, could be a professional, it doesn't matter. In Unicommerce's case, the company has been built over the last 7 years with professional management led by a professional CEO. He's done a fantastic job along with his team. Obviously, we are the promoters, we are the guiding light for the business. So every situation is different. I don't believe in these like truisms कि सिर्फ founder बना सकते हैं या सिर्फ professionals बना सकते हैं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Every situation is unique. Every person is unique. You have to look at a situation and a person and then decide what is the right path. On the first question, look, I feel if an investor is too much in a rush to get an exit, they should just take an exit and move on. An investor should never dictate the pace at which a company should be built. That pace should only be dictated by the person who's running it.
And I am from an agro startup which deals in tamarind, and we operate from a town in tier 3. I'm looking for D2C solutions for the same. My question to you is, are there any plans of Titan Capital or any other VCs moving into tier 2, tier 3 or village sections, helping them? Because what 50 to 60% of India's population is there. So are there any
I'm
steps?
really happy you asked this question. What's your name?
Atul.
Atul, really happy to you asked this question, and I'm so happy to hear that you're building a company in a small town in an agri sector, because we need not 10 or 20 or 100 Atuls, we need 10,000 Atuls to do that, because that's what our country's foundation will be. And you should feel really encouraged today that you're on the right track. Look, at the end of the day, there are good investors do not differentiate between a company being built in Indranagar or a company being built in Nagarcoil, right? Like, they should not differentiate, because the criteria are the same. Very good founder, good space, the business, the product or the service is needed, and there is a clear competitive differentiation. It should not matter where they are. I would actually argue that for a product that you are building, maybe it is better you are there in a small town, closer to the problem statement. In Japanese business literature, there is this concept known as Gemba, which means going to the place. That unless you go to the place, you will never have deep insights about what is the
Believe
problem.
in that too, yeah.
So I think you're absolutely on the right path. Just keep going. You'll find your supporters.
So my question is, I'm an edtech startup founder, okay? And so how do you see edtech market in India? Because I have spoken to a lot of VCs, and as per them, they have not seen much success in edtech market. But education is extremely important. So how do you see it?
I don't see it. I really don't care about trends and trend watching and sector thesis. What we are always at Titan very focused on is the micros, not the macros of an industry. The micros, which is, ye company kya? Is this company good? Is the founder committed, dedicated, passionate, right? Do they have a solution? Have they identified the problem statement right? Have they come up with a solution that is workable and capital efficient? So we are looking at the micros, right? Not the macros. It doesn't matter whether a certain sector is on the up or down. Great companies are created on the up. Great companies are created even in down cycles of sectors. So if your company is a great company, great product, great service, being built sustainably, it shouldn't matter to you what investors say about the edtech sector or some other sector.
Hi sir, I love the term which you said today, Indicorn. Like, what do you think is the mindset and skill set one has to acquire in order to get there, right? I'm into like podcasting, and what advice you wanted to give?
Look, actually, I don't think it is that complicated. Like, at the end of the day, if you are pursuing a business, assuming your podcasting business is a for-profit business, right? So you have some non-zero revenues, I presume, today. Today you'll have some revenues. Eventually you want to grow these revenues. You have a line of sight to where you want to get those revenues to. At some point, do you think those revenues can get to 100 crores? Right? And you will do it. You're probably not raising any external capital for this kind of business. You're building it in a bootstrap manner. It may take 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. You will get to 100 crores. You will be profitable. You will be an Indicorn.
Now with this, I would say a big round of applause. Let's give to Indicorns, to Kunal Bahl for being such a leader in our startup ecosystem and, showing the way. Rather than just saying, हर साल आके हम unicorn करें, अब हम अगले साल से Indicorn करेंगे. Kunal, very proud. Thank you so much.